Good morning and welcome to the Cardinal HCM 2023 ACA Processing Forum for Benefits Administrators. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us this morning. My name is Elizabeth Dessenberg and I'll be one of your facilitators today.
We're going to go on mute while we change presenters. So Sarah, take it away from here.
Thank you all so much for joining this morning. We're going to take some time to talk about benefit administrators' responsibility during the ACA period. We'll go over the overview of the process, the reports that you need to run, and then the certification step that you need to take in Cardinal. We'll look at these screens in depth together, and then we'll do a demo in our test environment. After we finished our demo, we'll talk a little bit about access to Cardinal, and we'll take some questions. All right, there are two very important deadlines for you to remember when it comes to ACA this year. This applies to all agencies and the local choice participants. By Friday, December 15th, you need to run the ACA Reconciliation Report in Cardinal. That report is going to detail health coverage for employees and their dependents. Then by Friday, December 29th, you'll need to complete the ACA Data Entry Certification. That's a page in Cardinal that you'll go to, answer some questions, key some counts, and then certify that the ACA data you viewed on the recon report is accurate. This is the ACA Recon Report screen within Cardinal. To get to it, you're going to navigate to Menu, Benefits, ACA Annual Processing, ACA Preparation, and the ACA Reconciliation Report. Now we'll do a demo and we'll step through this menu together, and you'll also receive a copy of not only this recording but the deck, so you'll have this navigation. When you pull up this Run Control panel, you're going to enter in your company and an as-of date and then run the report. We'll do that together during the demo. As you can see, you need to enter in a company, then go ahead and run the report, and we'll talk about the selections you're going to make as you step through that process. Once the report has successfully processed, you'll be able to access the data that it produced. We'll step through that in the demo as well. These screens will help you later to show you how to retrieve the data that the report created. Once you've run that ACA Recon report, you need to look at it and determine if the data is accurate. There are several reports that you can run in Cardinal to help you do that. Hopefully you're all familiar with the Cardinal Enrollment Report, the Benefit Enrollment Changes Report, and the Base Benefit Audit Consistency Report. Let's talk about these individual reports now. The Cardinal Enrollment Report pulls a list of employees and all of their coverage as of an as-of date. So you'll be able to use this to pull a listing of all the health coverage that your employees have, and that will help you validate the information you see on the ACA Recon report. The output is Excel, so you can use that to compare. The Enrollment Change Report can be used to find changes in a plan. You can select just health changes in a date range. So if you want to check and see coverage lost in a month, coverage gained in a month, you can use this enrollment change report to pull those changes. We suggest running the base benefit audit consistency report on a regular basis, but especially before you finish your ACA reporting. The base benefit consistency report will help you verify the Social Security numbers and tax identification numbers in the Cardinal system for dependents. That information is part of the ACA reporting that is transmitted from Cardinal to the IRS. If the IRS determines a Social Security number received doesn't match their system, Cardinal and the Office of Health Benefits receives information back, and then we have to do some research to verify those socials. So we ask that everybody make sure that the best socials that you have are in the system before we send ACA data. Once you've looked at all the data and you're comfortable with the output, there's a certification process where you can communicate to the Office of Health Benefits that you have looked at this data and it's good to go. We'll pull this page up in Cardinal together in a moment. You'll note that there is a special step for local choice participants where they'll indicate what safe harbor code they're using on their forms. You must select this if you're a TLC. Other information on this page has to do with counts. Do you have greater than 50 employees? And then you'll go through and indicate the number of full-time employees per month and the total employees per month. Once you've keyed everything and you're satisfied, you'll go ahead and click the I agree checkbox, and then you'll save the page. The deadline for completing this step is December 29th. If your company has not certified your ACA data, your employees will not be transmitted on our ACA printing file. It's very important that the certification step is completed by the 29th. We're going to step into the test system and we'll demo running these reports and doing the certification piece.
So we have a couple of questions that I want to address while you're getting ready. So there was questions about the presentation and a recording. The presentation will be distributed to all users who are in attendance or who are invited. We'll also send a recording along with that. So you will be able to listen to it again and also get to the great links that are provided here today. We have another question about if there's a report other than the separation details report that we can use to verify separations. We used to have this report and we're able to convert it to Excel. Now it's password protected against conversion, and I can't do VLOOKUPs on a PDF. So this might be a really specific question that we want the user to send in a ticket, so we just get better information about what entity you're from, and it might be something that we send over to our HR group. So if you could send in a VCCC ticket, we do reference how to do that at the end of this presentation, and you'll get information in an email when we follow up. All right, so as a reminder, we are going to send this recording out and the deck. We're going to walk you through this. It will be a little quicker than some people want. It'll be a little slower than others, but you will have this recording and be able to go through it again. Sarah is going to walk us through at, pretty slow, but if you're not familiar with Cardinal, we're going to give you some other tips at the end of this. This is not the only way to provide support. There is a job aid for this, which will take you through step by step and show you how to navigate to these. So don't worry, we're going to get you what you need to do what you need to do in the system. This is just purely to show you virtually how this can be done. Back to Sarah.
Thanks, Jolene. All right, so we've logged into the Cardinal system. I'm in a test system, so we'll be able to step through this process together. So again, I came into my home page and I'm going to click on the navigator icon in the upper right corner. It looks like a little compass. From there, I'll select menu. And then I'm going to select the benefits folder. I'll select the ACA annual processing folder, the ACA preparation folder, and then the ACA Reconciliation Report. And again, that navigation is in the deck and you'll receive it when we send it out after the forum. All right, so I'm going to come to this screen, and this is the Run Control ID screen. This is the first screen you get when you go to run a report in Cardinal. I'm just going to click enter and see what run control values come back. I have a few out here that are saved. If when I clicked enter there was nothing, I would click on the Add a New Value tab. It's going to ask me to enter a run control ID. Let's call this one ACA. I'll put in a name with no spaces in it and click the button Add. This just gives the system a record for recording the selections that you're going to make on this screen. So you can call it whatever you like. I have some called ACA. I have some that are with my initials. I have some that are just the number 1. Now that I'm into the page where I can actually run the report, I get some options. So different reports are run with different things in Cardinal. Sometimes you're going to enter a company. Sometimes you'll enter a date. Some you don't have to enter any parameters at all. To run the recon, we're going to select a company. I'm going to key a company, a smaller company, and I'm going to key the as of date as of the 1st of December. You can key that in, or you can click on the calendar icon and select the date. Now that I have a company and a date, I'm going to go ahead and click the Run button. Okay. This window that comes up is my Process Scheduler request window. And it basically gives me a second to decide, do I want to submit this request? And how do I want to receive my data? You can tell that when I made this new run ID, some information here was defaulted, right? It's saying, yep, I've got this report selected. We're going to run the ACA Reconciliation Report. The type is web and the format is text. Those are the default values, and you can accept those when you run this report, all right? Web will now allow the report to be available to you online so that we can get to the output. So that's really an important selection there. For format, there are other options. Whether you pick text or Excel, this report creates an Excel file. So I always just like to accept the defaults because I know they'll produce something that I can work with, all right? So I've checked my type, I've checked my format, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. You can see that it saves the page. What it's doing is it's saving the values associated with this run control ID of ACA. And now on the page, you'll notice that there's a process instance and a number. That lets me know that the report was successfully submitted and there's a number associated with it in the system. From here, we're going to click on the Process Monitor link. In the Process Monitor link, I can see all the reports that I've run recently. So my settings say, show me everything for user ID Sarah for the last 10 days. If we change this down to 1 day and click the refresh button, we'll see the report that's been run within the last 24 hours. So this top line, that's the one I just kicked off this morning at 9:18. To get to my output, I have to click on the Details link. Under Actions, I need to click View Log Trace. And here you can see there were 2 files produced by running this, a log file and the Excel file. The log file is filled with some technical information about how the report was run and what server it was processed on. The Excel file has my output for this company run that we just did. You would click this link, the Excel file will download, you can open it and look at it. So let's take a look and see what this data looks like. I'm going to pause here for a second while I pull up the file. All right, so now I've got the report opened. It's listing all of the employees in this small company. It's got the company's FEIN, it has employee number, it's got name information, right? And then it has some information about dependent state of birth, and it has coverage codes for each of the months. So you can see we've got some SF/E and some SP/W. When you get to this spot, you might be familiar with these codes from running the ACA reconciliation reports from BESS. If this is new to you or you need a refresher, OHB sent out an e-news that contains a link that explains all of these code values for you. Let's take a look at that. So here's the e-news that came out on November 28th that had all of the information you need about ACA. It tells you the deadline. We talked about running the reconciliation report by December 15th. That's the report we just ran in the system. You can see there's a link here, the Cardinal ACA Reconciliation Report Codes and Samples. This is a super helpful document that explains that SF we saw stands for a full-time employee. The SP we saw was a part-time employee. There are different group definitions based on if you're a state employee, if you're a state retiree, or if you're a local choice participant. You'll see these different values for each month. You'll also see other codes. Was the employee offered coverage? Was the employee enrolled in coverage, right? So you'll use these values to bump up against your Cardinal enrollment report to determine what coverage Cardinal has for your employee and their dependents for each month. Remember, when ACA is done, it looks at the first day of the month to determine coverage. So if you were to see, SF on the Cardinal enrollment report, right, and E, you would know that your full-time employee was enrolled in coverage that month. Let's pop back over to the report output. All right, so Sam Smith, SFE, for every month, January through December, right? So that employee was enrolled in coverage for each month. And then their dependents. The dependents don't get an employee code, they just get a coverage code. So you see the // right? That's telling me what the employee's dependents were enrolled in. So all of these dependents, Sarah, Sandra, Sally, were also enrolled in coverage for all 12 months. Okay. If we come down to Betty Smitherly, right, on this line, we can see she was a part-time employee, but she waived coverage each month. So the ACA report she'll receive in the mail in January will say she was offered coverage, but she chose to waive that coverage. All right, we'll slip back over to the e-news. The e-news link to the report will step you through sample data and what all of those values mean for each month. Okay, super helpful. If you're wondering how to receive this e-news document, OHB sends these out pretty regularly, and they email it to the Cardinal benefit contact in the system. So in the deck, there'll be a link to the job aid to how to update that information. We'll step through that in a moment. So let's just take a pause for a second and review what we've done. In Cardinal, we navigated to the Cardinal Reconciliation Report. We searched for run controls. We selected one we had, or we added a new one. You can see now when I search, I find my ACA value again.
Sarah, how do they know what date to put in for the run control?
So I would put in December 1st when you're running this at the end of the year, right? You want to see what the data looked like for each month as of the end of the year. ACA reporting is always done, coverage is reported as of the first of the month. So if you put in 12/1/2023 here, you'll get accurate data for the full year.
Now we have some really new attendees with us. They're not sure what to put in company. So can you talk about that?
Sure. So in Cardinal, every employee is assigned a company, right? And when you come to the lookup, you'll see all the ACA reporting companies available. You'll need to pick your company's company code. And if you're unfamiliar with that, you can always check job data. If you pull up an employee on job data, their company will display in the middle of the page.
Great.
Okay. So we made our way to the ACA Reconciliation Report page. We've gone ahead and clicked Run to generate the report. We verified that the default values are still there on our Process Schedule Request page, and then we clicked OK. We know we were successful submitting because we now have a process instance number. And now that I have this number, this 402, when I go to the process monitor, I'll see 402 is already completed running. If you are in a larger company, this report may take longer to run. So if you're, in one of our larger agencies, it could take 20, 30 minutes for this to complete. It needs to go through all of your employees, all of their dependents, every month of the year. You may come to this page and the run status may say processing for a few minutes until it completes. As I click the refresh button every few minutes, we'll get updated data. Because we're running such a small company, it goes pretty quickly. Okay. So once I've got a run status of success and a distribution status of posted, I can click on the details link. I'm going to take the action of viewing my log, and then I can see my output. So we have our Excel file right here that we can click on. We'll be able to download the file and view the data. Okay. Pop back over. Okay. So now that I've got my ACA Recon data run, then I need to look at the output. I need to determine, is all of this data accurate, right? So we're going to show you a slide in a few minutes that sort of points you to, what if I run the report and it goes to error? What if I run the report and I don't see any output? Those are all cardinal issues that you're going to submit a VCC ticket for. If you know that an employee's dependent had coverage and the report isn't showing that, that's a VCC ticket. But if you're confused about the coverage codes, if you have questions about those values you're seeing, you would reach out to OHB or the local choice for those. We do have a deck slide that'll sort of step you through that again. But now that I have my ACA Recon run, I can go ahead and run my Cardinal enrollment report. Let's take a look at that run page. So again, I click on my navigator button to get to my menu. I'll click menu. It's going to bring me to where I was. You can see at the top here, I've got my breadcrumbs on how I got here. I can go back to the beginning by clicking menu, or I can click the benefits link to go back to just the benefits folder, and that's where we need to go. Under the benefits folder, I'm going to select reports, and there's my Cardinal enrollment report. Let's select that page. All right, again, I'm brought to this run control page. So I'm going to click search to see if there are any available. And you can see I had one run control that I've used on this page before. And so it brought that one up. If I wanted to make a new run ID, I could add a new value. And today, let's call this is my ACA run of the Cardinal enrollment report. And now I've got another run control out there for me to run. I'm going to run this as of the 1st of December. Okay, and I'm going to, you'll note that it says that that's required. And I know that that field is required because of the asterisk in front of the as of date. Business unit and company are optional. Because I support all of the Cardinal system, I can run reports for all of the companies. I'm going to go ahead and limit this output to just the company we've been testing with. Okay, I'm going to put my company in and click run. Again, I get my process schedule request screen. You can tell it looks a little different. Different reports use a different style screen throughout Cardinal, but it's the same information is being defaulted, a type of web and a format of text. And I've checked that those are right. I can go ahead and click OK. I know it was successful because our process instance number has popped up. So let's go to the process monitor. This one takes a little bit longer to run, so you get to see the run status of processing now. It'll take a few minutes for this enrollment report to complete. And as I click the refresh button, the system goes out there to check to see, is it done? Is it done? So we'll let that run in the background. Oh, and there it goes. So that's gone to success. My run status is success. My distribution status is posted. If I click on the details, and again, under actions, I'm going to click view log trace. And you can see your output. So again, that log file is just technical information about where the report was run in the Cardinal system. But here's my CSV output. So it's a large Excel data file of all of the enrollment information that you can then view and use to compare against the reconciliation report. And again, running this report is also detailed in the deck, so you'll have step-by-step instructions to come back in and run the Cardinal enrollment report for your agency. Let's navigate to the next report. So again, I'm going to click my nav bar in the upper right corner. I'm going to select menu. I'm in benefit reports, and I can find the benefit enrollment changes report right at the top. Once again, it's time for a run control ID. Let's hit search, and I've got several options out here, so I'll just pick my first one. This is a run control page where there's a little more information. It wants to know if you're looking for changes, what window do you want to look for changes for? So you could run this month by month. We could look at, what changed in the month of November. You can key those dates in, or you can click the calendar icon and select. We're only looking at health for ACA concerns. And I'm going to key my company again. So I've filled out the run ID. I've got my start date and my end date. I picked health because we're looking at ACA data, and I picked the company that I want to run for. All right, when I go ahead and save this, the description will update to the company we've been working with. So let's click run. And we've got our process schedule request page again, right? Type is web, format is PDF. I'm going to go ahead and say okay. I've got my process instance, so I know that it's running. We're going to click on the process monitor, and we can see that report is running in the background. It'll take a minute to complete. And then I'll access my output the way we did for all the other reports. We click on details, we click on view log trace, and our output will show under the file list. Let's go ahead and navigate to our last report. I'll go to the nav bar. I'll pick the menu. So I'm going to select the audit folder and the base benefit consistency audit. Back to our Run ID page. You'll come to this page before you run any reports in Cardinal. Let's click search to see if we find any. I've got several out there that are available. Let's add a new value. I'm going to create one called ACA. I'll click add. Oh, I already did ACA. Let's make ACA 1. All right. So this Run ID is much, much simpler than the last, right? There's nothing that you really need to enter. You're just going to click the run button when this comes up. I'm going to accept the defaulted values for my type and format, and I'm going to click OK. I've got my process instance, so I know it's running. We'll click on the process monitor. I can see that the previous report went ahead and finished, and now this report is running. Again, that consistency report is going to show you a couple of different things. It's got a few different sections on it. But you're really looking at this one for ACA to make sure the dependent SSNs that you have in the system are good and they're not any issues there. Okay. All right, so let's recap for a second. We've run our ACA Reconciliation Report. That has a deadline of this Friday, the 15th. And now we've run several other reports to help us validate the data on that. We've looked at the e-news article and we've pulled up the sample values. And so we can determine the ACA data that Cardinal has pulled. The next thing you have to do to complete your ACA responsibilities are complete the data entry page to certify your ACA data. Yeah. All right, let's navigate to that page. I'm going to click the home button just to come back to the beginning of Cardinal. I'm going to click my navigator button. I'm going to click the menu. I'm going to click menu to take us to the top. All right. I'm going to click the benefits folder. I'm going to click employer information. And I'm going to select ACA data entry. Now, as a person who supports the Cardinal system, I may have more options in my folders than you see. Don't worry about that. All right, when I come to this page, it's asking me for my applicable large employer, and that's ACA speak for company. When IRS data is sent over and it's sent by an ACA applicable employer. And so that's the same as your company code in Cardinal. So the code that you use to run your ACA Recon report, that's the code you're going to use here. It's the exact same as your company code that you'll see on job data. I'll click search. And you'll see I'll get rows for all of the years that ACA reporting was available for my agency within Cardinal. We're certifying the 2023 data. All right. When this pulls up, some of the information is going to be defaulted already. So you can see that it's defaulted in the contact information for the benefit administrator in Cardinal for this agency. Right? Benny Admin is responsible for certifying this data. We'll look at where this comes from in a moment, but I can tell you that if your benefit administrator has changed since the last time this was done, or if your benefit administrator has changed and you haven't updated that in Cardinal, you'll need to update that on the Cardinal page. But first, you can come here and you can go ahead and do a lookup and find your EMPL ID. So you're going to want to take your EMPL ID and put it in as the person who's certifying this data. Okay. The ACA reporting indicator will be defaulted to yes. All companies in Cardinal, all TLCs in Cardinal need to complete this step. So you're all ACA reporters. The first thing it's going to ask you is, in general, did you have 50 or more full-time employees in the prior calendar year? You're going to answer yes or no to this question based on your agency. If you're a TLC, if you're a local choice participant, you'll need to enter in the safe harbor code that applies to your group. So if I'm a TLC, I'll click this box, and then I'll select which of the two safe harbor codes that are available that apply to my TLC. If I'm unsure which of these to select, you'll need to reach out to the local choice office for help. Okay, but you're either going to be a 2F or a 2H, and that has to do with the cost of care at your specific agency. Okay, if I am not a TLC, if I'm a state agency, I'm not going to click the safe harbor button. Okay, that's only for TLCs. Everyone else is going to leave it blank. And then I'm going to come down and enter in counts of employees for each month. Okay, and so this is important. What the ACA reporting that eventually makes it to the IRS says, this is how many employees you had total per month. This is how many full-time employees. And then it looks at your individual employee data to figure out, of those employees, how many did you offer coverage and how many elected coverage. So these counts are super important for the final IRS calculations.
All right, so I'm going to pause there and I want you to scroll back up.
Yep.
If you are an agency, a state agency, one of our 220 plus, then do not click the safe harbor code. That does not apply to you.
That's correct. Safe harbor codes for state agencies are determined at the OHB level. They're not individual by agency. It's the entire state uses a set of safe harbor codes.
If you are a TLC, so a locality, a municipality, a school district that buys coverage from the state health benefit plan through the local choice program, then you are what we consider a locality. We also commonly reference you as a TLC. You need to use this checkbox and you need to ensure you know what of those two codes you should utilize. If you're uncertain, you need to reach out to TLC. We have their contact at the end of this. So that's Shelley and Freddie, and there's a few other friends that are also answering that group mailbox there.
That's correct, Jolene. The safe harbor codes have to do with cost of coverage. Since those are set for all agencies at the state level, they don't need to make any information here. The state determines the safe harbor code. Because localities have options to set their pricing individually by locality, that's why they need to select that, okay? So you'll click, if you are a TLC, you're gonna click this safe harbor code requested button. Once you select that button, then the drop down appears. If you haven't checked that checkbox, there's no drop down. So I'm a state agency, I'll leave this set to no, and I'm a smaller state agency, so my 50 employee question is also set to no. So I'm going to come down and key my number of employees per month, right?
So let's talk about who counts in this. Do wage staff include, are wage staff included in this calculation down here? Can you answer? We got Karen from OHB here, Karen Jones.
Yes, good morning. Only if they are enrolled in benefits. We are looking for those who are eligible for your benefits.
So if they're eligible and not enrolled, or just eligible and enrolled?
Both, because you could waive your eligibility and because you're covered under another plan.
Would you be included in this number if you waived your eligibility?
Yes.
Great.
Now, Karen, does that apply to total full-time and total employee count?
Total full-time employees who are eligible for coverage.
Okay, so for January, we had 5 full-time employees in my agency. We also employed 2 part-time employees who weren't eligible for benefits. Does 7 go in my total employee count?
Correct.
Wonderful. All right, so again, when I'm keying in the total full-time count, it's total full-time benefit eligible employees, regardless of if they elected coverage or not. Any of your full-time people who were offered coverage are going to go in that top line 1. My total employee count, that's everyone, okay? If I accidentally reverse these and I key that I had 7 employees full-time in February and 5 employees for total, I'll get an error when I try to save this data, right? It's gonna tell me that my math doesn't make sense, all right? So that's a key that I've keyed something backwards here. So February, we had 5 again, but we added in another part-time person to help with overload. In March, we had 5, we went back down to 7. In April, we had 5, 7. Let's say we hired another full-time employee in May, we're gonna go up to 6. And my employee count is now at 8. Right, and it stayed the same for the rest of the year. 6 full-time employees and 8 total. So I'm going to just key those for each month. August.
So Sarah, I'm going to go ahead and interject. We have a couple of our locality friends that are asking us about the Safe Harbor code request option, that they're not seeing it on this page that Sarah is showing right now. We're going to go ahead and look into that. We can't answer you right now, but we will circle back accordingly.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, so let's just take a look. We've keyed in all of our full-time employee counts on line 1. It's all of my full-time benefit eligible employees. And then on line 2, we've keyed our total count of employees. Okay. And then the certification piece, I need to say that we certified the information provided here and the information in the Cardinal database for this employer are true, correct, and complete to the best of our knowledge. By clicking the certification box below, we authorize DHRM to use this information to file ACA employer reports for the IRS on our behalf, right? So we're saying that everything I've keyed on this page is correct. And when it says the information in the Cardinal database, we're talking about what you saw on the ACA Reconciliation Report, okay? Both of those pieces are correct. I can click I agree. It's going to pop in my certifier name and the date that I certified, and then I'll save the page. Our deadline for completing this step is Friday, December 29th. When we run the file out of Cardinal to transmit all of our ACA information to our vendor to print forms, if my agency hasn't certified, we will not be included in that file. It is crucial that everyone certifies by Friday, December 29th.
All right, so we've talked about 2 deadlines here today. They need to run the ACA Reconciliation Report by
Friday, December 15th, this Friday.
This Friday. So you need to get in and you need to run it. And we went through those steps up at the top. We will distribute this deck to everybody shortly after this presentation. And then the second thing is you need to complete this page and certify your numbers by Friday, December 29th.
That's correct.
All right, so we have had, since Karen responded to a couple of questions, we have a few more people coming in for clarification on what numbers go into the count. And I imagine it's really important that they understand what's in that, what's in those full-time counts. Do contractors go in the counts?
In either count?
No.
All right,
Okay.
so Karen is
Talking about
saying contractors do not go in the count. Do wage employees go in the count?
They're benefit eligible.
If they're benefit eligible. So if your wage employees are benefit eligible, they do go in the count.
In the total full-time
Right.
count. All of my wage employees go in my total count.
Correct.
Okay, so that's the distinction. Line 1 are people who are eligible for benefits. Line 2 is everyone else who's an employee. So no contractors, but anybody else who's an employee of your agency or your group, right? All those employees are going to go in that total count. So line 2 is everybody, whether they are offered benefits or not. Line 1 is your benefit eligible population.
Do board members go into the account?
Are they offered benefits?
Are they offered benefits? So that seems to be the question you need to ask yourself. Are they offered benefits? So write that down. Are they offered benefits? If so, you put them into that top row where it says total full time.
That's correct.
All right.
Everybody who gets benefits will go in that line 1 count. Everybody who's an employee all together will go in that line 2 count. So your line 1 numbers will either be equal to or less than your line 2 numbers. Line 2 is the big group. Line 1 is the smaller benefit eligible group. You may be a small agency that's made up of 5 full-time employees and they're all offered benefits. Then your numbers are going to be the same. You may be a giant agency with a lot of part-time wage employees, right? Then your line 1 numbers will be smaller than your line 2 numbers.
All right.
Okay. All right. And so that's what you're sort of certifying, that the ACA data you saw in the recon report was accurate, and then the counts of the employees. When the ACA process runs by OHB and the Cardinal team afterwards, it aggregates everything. It goes out there and says, okay, you had 7 employees in January total. 5 of them were offered coverage. And then it looks at the data you see on that recon report to figure out, of the 5, did you offer benefits to all 5? You should have, right? So you should have seen an SF in every one of those if they were full-time benefit offered employees. And either the, E or W, right? They either enrolled in coverage or they waived it. Those options both mean they were offered coverage. And then that looks further at the data to say, did that person enroll? And that's how we're able to transmit to the IRS. We hired 7, 5 were benefit eligible, 4 enrolled in that coverage. You don't have to share counts of coverage. That happens when the data is all aggregated together.
All right. So a lot of questions on, if you have any questions about what needs to be in what blocks, you need to contact, if you're an agency, the OHB contact at the end of this. If you are a locality or municipality or school system, you need to reach out to TLC if you have any questions. 2 more things I want to mention. There was a question on what's the as of date. So let's say they're hiring someone on the 27th of December. What's the as of date, Karen, for the numbers here?
As of the end of the month.
As of the end of December.
Correct.
Okay. Also, we had a question about the deadlines. If they've completed the reconciliation report and they've run that and they're good with the data that's in there, when can they do the certification?
They can do the certification today. Some of our agencies have already completed their certification. We are keeping track of that. If you are getting close to the 29th and you haven't, you will hear from Karen at OHB or you will hear from the TLC group. So we are definitely looking closely to keep an eye on certifications, but you are free to complete that today.
Right.
All right. So just to recap our demo for a second, we went into the system, we went to the ACA Reconciliation Report, we ran that report, we looked at the output, we used the e-news guidelines to help us decipher the data, we used the other Cardinal reports to help us verify the data, and then we came to our ACA data entry page, we answered a few questions and keyed our employee counts, and then we saved that data and our certification is then complete. So that covers the benefit administrator ACA responsibilities. Run the recon by this Friday, validate that data, and then do your certification by the 29th. Let's go back to our deck to help us with a few other points.
All right, while Sarah is navigating back to the access page, there are a couple other questions about what if they need corrections
To the certification page?
to data in the certification, that they're certifying. For instance, let's say they need to have their state agency and they need to have an SSN updated. Stateside, that goes to iHelp. So if we don't have that at the end of this presentation, we'll drop it in there. If you have an SSN update, then that only can go through them. That has to be through their secure portal. You should not send an email with an SSN in it. What if you're from a TLC?
Submit that to the TLC box.
All right, so Karen said you need to submit that change to the TLC box if you are a locality/municipality, and you need to do that in a way in which they have requested that information to be changed. What if you have a change to correct coverage? So you are looking at the report and you're like, hey, this isn't correct. The report isn't displaying the right information. Then what do they do?
All right. So there's a couple of different things that could have happened here. So you could pull up the recon report and says for, John Smith that was enrolled in coverage. You see that coverage on the health benefits page for January, but the ACA recon report shows that they were not enrolled in coverage. That's a problem with the report, and you would report that to BCC and the Cardinal team will take a look at it, okay? If you go to the health benefit page and you don't see the coverage for January, it says February, but this employee was enrolled, they were covered, there were no changes, then that means something has gone off with their health enrollment record. You would reach out to OHB for that. So it really sort of depends on, where the correction needs to take place. If there's a problem with that ACA Recon report, you can reach out to the Cardinal team. It didn't run to success, the data is wrong, it's not, accurate, all of that comes to Cardinal. If it's the actual enrollment data that you think is wrong, you would reach out to OHB for help with that.
All right. We did have some people comment that if the SSN isn't in there, then they can go ahead and if you have access to enter that, and that's true for most of our state agencies, they can go ahead and add that missing SSN. So it really is just for corrections.
Right. So the benefit administrators can go in and they can correct or add dependent Social Security numbers. So you all have access to do that. You can go in, you add dependents all the time. Once their Social Security numbers become available, you can go in and key those socials as soon as you have them. If you want to reach out to employees to verify that they're correct and you need to make a correction, you can go in and correct it once you see the actual card, right? It's if you need to correct the employee's Social Security number, you need to go through iHelp. But all of our state agency BAs can go in and correct dependent SSNs. And if you would reach out to the TLC group, if you're a TLC group, to get a dependent social fixed.
Great. Okay.
All right, Jolene, can you talk to us a little bit about getting into Cardinal if you haven't?
Absolutely. And this is really, even if you are in Cardinal, really directed to our health benefit only organizations. So this would include our localities. This could also include some of our health benefit only agencies who find themselves only occasionally coming into Cardinal. We will note that you should be coming in here monthly to do your reconciliations, but regardless, core user access. What the difference is between core user access and employee self-service access is you have elevated access to help you complete some of your job functions. In this case, it might be doing the certification for this ACA process. If you're a core user, and typically at Go Live, you created this whole role mapping, you shared it with Cardinal, we would have sent you information about how to log in and potentially register. maybe you did that initially and you haven't been in since last year, or you haven't been in for quite some time. If you have not logged into Cardinal within the last 90 days, then you will not be able to access the ACA Recon Report and the ACA Data Entry page to certify. Now you might ask, hey, I'm able to log in, I just don't have the same navigation as Sarah was showing us. That's because you likely have employee self-service access, where you could go in and potentially for open enrollment update your benefits information. So you didn't lose all access, you just lost the access that you really needed for this specific task.
If you log in and you don't see that navigation compass in the upper right-hand corner, you've lost your core access.
Correct. So what you'll need to do is you will need to submit a Cardinal security form to reinstate your core user access. And we have two paths here. On the left-hand side, we have the locality path. On the right-hand side, we have the agency path. It both starts with a security form and updating that. Then you will have to email that to TLC if you're a locality. You'll have to connect with your agency Cardinal security officer if you are if you're a agency, and you'll need to go through the process that is outlined here. The end game for everybody is the Cardinal security team will notify you via email when your core user access is updated. That could take up to 3 days for them to reinstate your access. They are aware that this is time sensitive at this point, but obviously there's a flood of people who are asking for this same access. So please be patient. Also, from a locality perspective, you have a couple more steps to go through. So if you recognize today that for some reason you are not able to navigate to these, then you need to get that core user access reinstated, or you need to work with somebody at your agency or locality who maybe still maintains that access and can do these tasks for you. On the next slide, just talking a bit about logging into Cardinal. As a reminder, it's my.cardinal.virginia.gov. We encourage everybody to bookmark this so you do not get to the wrong page. If you've never been into Cardinal before and you're relatively new, your valid email address is required. That's required on your HR record. So if you're an agency, your HR administrator would have had to set that up. As core users, that should have been your agency provided email. As localities, that would have been a part of the form that would have been sent in, but you will need to use your valid email address. And then if you are a locality or you're a non-COVE agency, then you would also need to know your 11-digit Cardinal employee ID, as well as your last 4 digits of your SSN. For those individuals who need support with their Cardinal employee ID, you might want to reach out to TLC if you didn't get that information back and you haven't logged into Cardinal, or somebody else at your locality or agency. For those of you who have registered, you recognize that it's not the easiest process. We do need to maintain a very rigorous amount of security around our access into this critical statewide system. And so we encourage you to use the Cardinal portal page, which is linked here on the Cardinal website, to determine if you need to register. And anybody who is registering, you need to use the Cardinal Registration Quick Start Guide, which is at the center of the page. There are multiple steps that are in the system and outside of the system, emails you need to click onto to activate your account. We don't want people to go alone. It really is the best way for you to be successful in getting into the system if you haven't previously registered. For those of you who have registered and you're like, I can't remember my, and you are not a Cove user, you're not supported by Vita with your enterprise ID, and you're like, I can't remember my password. Fortunately, there's a password reset button at the bottom of the my.cardinal.virginia.gov page. You can click on that once. An email will be sent to your email on file, and then you can click that link. It can take 20 minutes for that email to deliver because it's coming from this email system over to your email system, and then you can try to reset it that way. If you have an issue and you've tried all of those methods, you can enter a Cardinal Help Desk ticket, and we'll reference that below.
Great.
So I'm going to go ahead and we have some more questions. Let's go ahead and hold those, go through some of our other questions or our other slides from a resource perspective, and then we'll circle back on any questions at the end.
That sounds great.
So from additional support, we've had lots of questions today about where and who to access. If you have questions about the ACA Reconciliation Report values, or you need assistance determining data or entering ACA certification, like what is my safe harbor code, or what should I be including in these numbers, or general policy and eligibility questions, you need to contact either OHB or TLC, and that's based on your entity type. For OHB, they have an email, phone, and fax, and they have a notation of how they would like you to request support from them, including an assistance form that's linked here. If you're a locality, you'll go ahead and use the local choice email, tlc@dhrm.virginia.gov, and their phone number that's listed there. We've talked many times throughout this deck in this presentation today about Cardinal support. We reference, hey, send us a VCCC ticket or send a ticket to the Cardinal Team, or we love to use acronyms here, or the Cardinal PPS team. That's lingo for post-production support. It all goes to the same place. So you would submit a help desk ticket by emailing VCCC@Vita, and you need to include the following information. In the subject line, always include Cardinal. There are literally tens of thousands of tickets that are sent to this. If you do not include Cardinal, it will not be routed to us. It could be routed to any number of other entities that support other applications or products. So we want to make sure that you always enter Cardinal in the subject line. And then, because it's so helpful for us for you to include a little detail, you could say ACA Reconciliation Report, and just as much detail that you can, a brief summary for routing so we can get it to the right person as quickly as possible. You know, a question, a broken page, I'm not seeing on this page what I thought I would see. Also include detailed information about your issue in the contents of the email, and always include your name, your email address, and the best contact phone number, so that if we need to reach out to you, we have your contact information. As referenced earlier, there are email communications that come out from OHB to agencies. We've referenced the most recent one, the e-news, that is linked here, and you can utilize this link to navigate to this information if you missed it in your email. On the next slide, we reference the TLC communication. If you go to the TLC web page, there is a whole link with all of the e-newses that are referenced here. That's a great guide for you to go back and look what's happened over the year. If for some reason you missed an email, or if you're not the benefit contact in Cardinal, and we'll talk about that on the next page. Cardinal support materials. So this was a great opportunity for you to kind of see and hear how to use this ACA page. but this is the job aid that gives you step-by-step instructions for completing the ACA certification process. This is what we want you to click on and download to use when you're going through this process. The second link is for the BA contacts. And as you heard Sarah mention earlier, OHB sends emails out to the OHB administrative contacts that are listed on this page. If you're like, hey, I'm new to this, then you might want to go into this page and see who is listed for your agency and update that. If you're like, hey, so-and-so's left, please go in and check. We have agencies who are using, I believe, group mailboxes in some cases.
That's right. If you're a larger agency, Jolene, and you need several people to receive these emails, you can set up a group distribution list and have that email listed. You take a look at the job aid to step through that. And if you have any problems or issues accessing that page and making changes on that page, you can send a VCCC ticket in and the Cardinal team will help you.
Right. So reports, usually we list out the reports, but in this case, we really walked you through all the reports that we want you to utilize for the ACA reconciliation. Go back up to the top of the deck and reference those there. And then down at the bottom is the reports catalog. This is especially useful for agencies for all the reports, benefit reports that we recommend and queries for the benefits functional area. And if you're like, hey, Sarah gave us a great demo on how to run a report today, and then at the home office, and you're like, hey, I can't remember how to do this, there is a job aid for support. It's listed at the bottom. I really love this because it does walk you through page by screenshot by screenshot. So I'm going to hand it back over to Sarah to talk about, again, the deadlines of what you need to all do here, and then to let you all know that we are going to go ahead and send this deck out right away. So you should get it in the next hour or two, so you can go ahead and feel like you can get started and utilize these links, and then we'll follow on with the recording when that recording is ready.
That's great, Jolene. So again, there are two important things that everyone needs to do, TLCs and state agencies, to complete your ACA responsibilities. Number one is run your recon report by this Friday. Run that recon report, run the other reports to help you validate that data, check e-news for the links to the valid, to the fields you're going to see on that recon report, right? Get all of that data looked at by Friday. And then you have from Friday until the end of the month to finish your reconciliation step. By Friday, December 29th, go to the ACA data entry page and complete your certification steps. If you're a TLC, make sure you tell us what safe harbor code applies to you. If you're a state agency, you skip that section. You give all of your counts of employees for the different months. And then you check the box at the end, attesting to that statement that you have completed everything and everything is accurate, and then certify that data.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Jill. Jill has a couple of questions that we've been receiving that she would like to go ahead and respond to. So please continue to listen and hang on with us.
All right, everybody. So we got several questions on dependent Social Security numbers. And as Sarah said, BAs who are, who have access to make changes in Cardinal are able to go in
How to
and
access
if you are
that,
missing a Social
but if you're
Security
back,
number or it needs to be updated, the BAs can do that themselves. Now, if you're a TLC agency, you need to just reach out to your TLC group at OHB and they will handle those changes for you. Another question is, what about newborns where they haven't even gotten a Social Security number yet? We're aware of that issue, and the IRS also, they realize that it takes a while to get that SSN in the system, so you shouldn't worry about that. That will be covered, but we do want you to, of course, follow up with the employee and get those socials in as soon as possible. Then I got a question about what happens if you have an employee who doesn't want to give you their dependent Social Security number or wants their dependent Social Security numbers removed from the system. Now, having that Social Security number is is important for lots of reasons, claims processing, everything. But if you have a situation like that, we want you to reach out to OHB and they will help you make a determination on whether that SSN can be removed or is needed in the system. The second issue that I've had several chickens on is if I have a mid-month transfer, let's say on the 25th, would they stay in their prior agency's report for that month, or would they be reported under the new agency? And they would, in fact, be reported under the new agency because they were in that agency as of the last day of the month. I think that is it for me, Jolene. Want to go ahead?
Yep, so we're going to continue to look through the questions that have been submitted, and we'll answer those as we can.
And you won't get the answer if you drop. So if you want to hold on while we're looking, we'll probably come on and off mute just to answer them verbally.
Right. But again, if you have a question about, using Cardinal or the data that you get out of Cardinal, put in a BCCC ticket and the Cardinal team will get back to you. If you have a question about policy, about filling out that certification page, about coverage, reach out to OHB or TLC. Make sure you remember your 2 deadlines. This Friday for running the recon report, and the end of the month, the 29th, for that certification step. And if you have any questions when you get back, please reach out. We're happy to help you, step through this process.
So I'm going to go ahead and transition back over to, I'm looking at Karen. I'm going to ask her a question about data because we have, agencies and localities who are concerned about if they're certifying now, but the data is really supposed to be through the end of the year. How do they do that? What, if someone suddenly leaves or if something happens to their count, I think that they want to consider the numbers that they've just certified.
For sure. And updates can be made all the way through to the end of the month. So if it's a change prior to or after December 29th, they can let us know. If it's a major change, they can send a request over to the OHB box or the TLC box for TLCs, and we'll get that data corrected.
Great. So if they had an employee who began with them in September, like September 25th, they include that employee in the September count, correct? Yes. What is the safe harbor code? So the safe harbor code is for locality participants who participate in the local choice program run by OHB. There are 2 drop downs there. If you're a locality, if you don't know which code you are supposed to use, you need to circle back with the TLC box to ask them. I'm just going to skim back through some of the other questions.
Jillian, there was one question about if somebody's hired at the very end of December. I get hired on December 27th. How do they get an ACA form? They won't. Their coverage doesn't start until January. They can't participate in our healthcare plan in the year 2023. So that employee who gets hired at the end of December will not receive a form.
Great. Thank you, Sarah, for that reminder. Someone asked if you no longer have the navigation bar, then you've lost your core user access. You need to get that security form submitted right away. So as soon as we send out this deck, you can go ahead and go out there and start that process.
Yes, the deck has got a ton of useful information. It'll have paths to every report. So if you didn't catch how I navigated, the deck will give you the exact navigation to all of the reports and the screens. It'll link you out to eNews. It'll link you out to the ACA Recon code values. Everything you need should be there. And as Jolene said, we have job aids too on that Recon page or the certification page. But if you get stuck, please reach out with a ticket to either the OHB, TLC, or Cardinal groups.
For localities who have mentioned to us that they aren't seeing the safe harbor code checkbox, we're going to go ahead and take a look into that issue. There's been a number of you today, and we'll need to circle back with you on that. we'll probably have to send a general message out because we don't have all the locality numbers on here about who was referenced. If an employee transfers from one agency to another mid-month, do they count at the first agency? When do they count at the second agency?
Well, they will count in the month in which they were hired at the agency that they were hired at. It will be included in the total number of employees. They may not be yet covered for benefits and eligible for health care, but they are counted as an employee of that agency in the month in which they're hired.
All right. Any other questions that are related to that? I think we've said you need to contact TLC or OHB. Again, we thank you for your time and attention today. Good luck. Reach out to us if you need any assistance. Thank you.